Careful, He-Man, Skeletor's giving out free haircuts. Here's your look at the Masters of the Universe Origins, Roton, the evil assault vehicle. Whether on land or in the air, the Roton and its spinning blades carve a path of destruction. Before we begin, I can't help but notice a long lineup of people looking to get a free haircut. Just remember, though, who's going to be cutting the hair. It's a man that doesn't technically have hair. I always feel like a bald man shouldn't be giving expert advice on when it comes to trimming someone's hair. That's just my personal opinion. That being said, though, we're going to get a closer look at the Master Universe Origins Roton, a vehicle I was really super excited to finally get my hands on, and I did finally find it. Not locally, though. I had to go over to places like eBay. In fact, eBay was the place I went over and picked up myself a Roton. I don't think I paid overly too much more than what I was expecting to pay in retail, but I do really wish that retail stores like Toys R Us locally would actually start stocking some new Motu figures and vehicles, as it looks like the well has completely dried up. That being said, we're going to grab the tape measure now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. I'm not just going to wave my fingers aimlessly like this, but I'm going to measure from the end of its blade to the end of its blade. Then I'm going to measure from the top or the bottom of the blade all the way up to the top of the seat to give you a rough about idea of just how big the Roton is. From blade to blade, the Roton is about, well, I guess it would be safe to say about 8 inches exactly. And that works out to be a vehicle that's about 20 centimeters wide. Then if you were to look at how high it is before we actually put a character inside of it, factoring the seats, it looks to be like the Roton's about 5 inches in height, or again, you're looking at about 12 centimeters tall. And if we're looking to compare evil vehicles, then let's just move over the Roton and bring in the previously looked at Land Shark. I was kind of actually surprised that Mattel decided to release the Land Shark first and not release the Roton. I love the Land Shark, but I always thought that Roton was sort of the definitive evil man's vehicle. Speaking of evil men, let's bring in Skeletor right now, who, again, I have to remind everybody, does not have any hair, so don't be taking any free haircuts from this guy. Skeletor will sit inside, obviously, the Roton. The thing about the newer Roton, unlike the original Roton, is that these figures actually sit a lot better inside the cockpit. More on cockpits in a moment. What? One thing you may notice, though, about the Master Universe Origins Roton is an additional roll cage and front interchangeable faceplate that wasn't, though, included with the original vintage Roton. These are a hark back to the Monogram Master Universe model kits, in which Monogram released a series of Master Universe vehicles that were all slightly different from the original vintage counterparts. The Monogram Roton model kit actually did have this additional roll cage on the top, and it did have a different faceplate here on the front, as represented here on the things that you'll see to the left side. The Masters or Matty Collector Master Universe Classics Roton also had these same component pieces included. Now, that's fine and good. I like that they throw this back to the original Monogram models, but I think honestly it's an additional bit of plastic that didn't need to be included with the Roton. Now, I'm only saying this solely on my own opinion alone. You may love the fact that they actually included these as throwbacks to the original model kits and the Matty Collector Roton, but I feel like it's plastic that's just ultimately going to be going into my tote, and it's never going to be displayed with the vehicle. I like rather instead the more vintage look of the Roton, but I suppose these parts are available there as well if you wanted to change them and add on to the Roton. I honestly think it makes the vehicle look a little more uglier, but I'll show you guys how to actually add this onto the vehicle. First of all, we'll take the Roton here. The roll cage, or the top canopy section, actually is, again, just molded red plastic. On the bottom, though, you'll notice that there's 2 pegs. See, they're sticking out on either side. If you look to the top of the vehicle, just where the cockpit back area is, there's 2 holes. Based on that, you kind of get the idea of where that's going to go. Just snap it into place. There's no actually canopy hinge or anything like this, so you can't really open it and close it. The moment you lift it up, you're only ultimately just removing it from those peg holes. So you just plug those in place. So it's always best to, of course, put your figure inside the vehicle first before you actually put this on top. And then the other thing that comes included with is, again, the faceplates. Monogram original models had this. Plugs in the exact same way, though. You can see there's pegs on the backside here. And in this case, actually, just below the veiny eyes, you'll see there's a couple of holes. So again, you just take yourself the faceplate, line up everything, You don't really have to do it in the order that I did, but one thing it does do at least is you won't have to worry about as much trying to tuck this underneath the face. It's only going to pop the faceplate off. I find it's actually better to put this on second. And that's what it looks like. For better or for worse, I think I'm leaning more to the latter. I don't like it myself, and again, I feel the plastic was just a waste in this case, but if you like it, it's obviously there available for you. I'm going to go ahead, though, and take it off, reversing the steps, or at least the process in which we put it on. I'm going to remove that, put those to this side. I'm never probably going to be speaking about them again. Let's have a look, though, at the vehicle before we actually get Skeletor sitting inside of this. I had the original Roton vehicle back in the day a long time ago. I would have gone and long since sold it off at a garage sale, but it looked pretty much similar to this. One thing I do remember, though, about the Roton, I even did a little bit of researching, actually before hitting the record button here for this review. And the original Roton, I think, would have been a slightly smaller vehicle, from certainly what I remember as well. It was a much smaller vehicle. And it was also more of a matte black plastic. It didn't seem to be as shiny as what we're getting here with this Roton. This one is a lot higher. And one thing that's also different with this Roton that wasn't on the original one is that the figures sit inside the vehicle a lot better. I'm just going to bring Skeletor here in a second. This is actually Battle Armor Skeletor. And when you are putting him obviously into the vehicle, you're just going to want to bend the legs slightly, take the figure then and slide it inside the vehicle. Then what you can also do is there's these little joysticks on either side. You're really only going to be able to use the one hand for Skeletor, as the other hand is just basically like a monster or relaxed hand. And then you can have Skeletor sitting inside. The original Roton, though, being smaller like this, the character figure sizes are about the same size. I remember actually having to take my Skeletor and really pinch together his legs in order to fit inside the Roton, and having to deal with Master Universe rubber bands back in the day, of those things always breaking. I was always really worried about putting Skeletor inside the Roton. I love the look of it, but even as a kid, I knew the tolerances of what figures bodies would have been. And Skeletor just had a really tough time to sit inside the Roton. For all intents and purposes, if I still had a classics version of Skeletor, I could probably sit him inside this vehicle as well, as it's a much bigger sized vehicle. Of course, Skeletor does sit inside. He more or less just joysticks his way around. There is technically a front console, but there's no sticker application at all to speak of here. However, though, there's a lot of stickers that they applied to the vehicle itself. The vehicle has stickers, which I will already tell you have been already applied by the company. You didn't have to do this yourself. So if you are one that has a tough time to line up stickers, did not have to worry about it, at least in the case here of the Roton. I think one thing also that some people critiqued on is that the bloodshot eyeballs were a little off aligned when it came to their sticker application, but it did look like, at least in mine, that the stickers are in the right places. That was one of my favorite things about the Roton, is these big giant eyeballs. It kind of looked to me like a land spider, even though it's a lot more than 8 legs, granted, but it always kind of reminded me of a land spider. But again, you've got these cool little stickers of green, sort of scaly stickers. All you can see have been sticker applied all the way around the outer end of the body, or out of the outer end of the vehicle's shell. And then, of course, when you look at the bottom of it, there's the tires. The tires will be the thing that spins the actual blades. I should have really also brought in the tiny little Roton that I had with the Skeletor. I did a review of that a long time ago. I can't remember really the line. Was it the Master Universe Minis? But I did actually do a review. In fact, I do remember, I think it had Battle Armor Skeletor, also with the Roton. You can let me know if that's not the case down below. Some also assembly, although I didn't have to apply the sticker, some assembly was required, as I had to take, of course, the actual guns. And these just plug quite easily in place. A much larger hole is presented here on the top, and you simply just take the cannons, plug them in place, but at least it still allows for them to be moved back and forth. As for the vehicle itself, it does have some decent weight to it. It doesn't feel like it's hollow. I know it's hollow, and obviously there would have been some mechanics that they would have had to put to the bottom of the vehicle itself. There's also a hole here on the bottom that doesn't, like, from what I can see, serve any other purpose than basically just, I'm guessing, 2 shells put together. This probably was just the hole from the peg for the top part of it to sandwich it together. Anyways, though, I'm sure you guys will want to see what it looks like. Now, to spin it back and forth, you can see it only spins the one way. I suppose that would be, what, counterclockwise. It does also make quite a very loud ratcheted joint. So if you are one that likes to play with your Master Universe characters and figures really late at night and try not to wake up anybody in the house, this is probably not the vehicle you're going to want to be using for it. And again, you can take yourself your Skeletor and have him sitting inside of it. I guess really you could use many different characters. It doesn't have to necessarily be Skeletor. I would consider this to be Skeletor's ride, though. Although in Master Universe Revelation, I think there was several Rotons that were all flying in air, never ones that would actually be, I think a couple of them may have been on the ground, but I think most of them were actually in the cartoon hovering in the air. I always considered this more to be a land vehicle than a flying vehicle, but it was always one of my favorite, if not my favorite, of the bad guy vehicles out there. I do kind of wish that we would have got the Roton instead of the Land Shark, and maybe Land Shark would have come out now instead of the Roton, because it was always kind of my favorite of the vehicles. Finally have it in hand, and I gotta say, like, it looks just as good as what I remember when I had the original vintage toy as a kid. Granted, it does have all these additional parts, the component pieces from the original monogram models. I'm never really going to be using these myself. I just think, if anything, they're a waste of plastic. But if you like it, and you like the original throwback to the monogram model kits, I suppose they are available thanks to the folks over at Mattel. Just finished saying I was going to bring back in those monogram extra pieces for the Roton, and yet here we are in final looks as Skeletor's got a little bit of extra head space. In fact, that was actually the reason why I did bring them back here for final looks, so that you can actually see there's a lot of actual clearance inside the Roton, even with that extra canopy piece on top. I don't like it myself, but if you do like it and thinks it brings a little extra charm to the vehicle, then Mattel did, of course, include that as well. I think, of course, the biggest sell of this vehicle is the fact it does have the spinning, ratcheted sound. Just as ratchety loud as what I remember from the original vehicle. I think also, now that I think about it too, not only did I have the Roton that I just recently, I don't want to say recently reviewed, it was a while ago that I reviewed those Master Universe minis, a Skeletor and a Roton, but I think also I looked at the Mega Bloks Roton that I remember had all those extra rubber pieces that went into the top holes there. That was a lot of extra time I didn't think I needed to put into it, but sure enough, those had those extra little spikes in it. This Roton doesn't have that, but like I said, it does have still that very loud sound that I remember as a kid. Definitely not a toy you're going to be wanting to play at night, speaking from example. Roton by far is my favorite vehicle of the Master Universe. Not only just the Origins, but the original vintage line as well. I really wished I could have actually had still the same original vehicle I had as a kid, so I could actually have done a side-to-side comparison. This is just as good as the original, with a lot more leg space. That was something that really was a problem with the original Roton. I always felt, even as a kid, it was way too small to actually fit a character inside. This Roton not only does have the head space with the additional canopy, but a lot more leg space. Skeletor doesn't have to feel like he's going to be getting leg cramps when he's trying to chase down He-Man. But what do you guys think of the Roton? Let me know down below in the comments section. And when it comes to displaying this vehicle, will you display it with the monogram pieces, or leave it au naturel without those pieces intact? Let me know down below in the comments section. Certainly as well, if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content you guys are seeing, and certainly do want to stick around for more, because we are, FYI, going to be looking at some more Master Universe Origins. Lots of stuff going to be coming your way. The key to making sure that you're not missing out on anything is, first of all, hitting that subscribe button down below, and also turning on the bell notification. That ensures that you're also going to be getting those reminders every single time a new video posts. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.